Hey yo, this is old Jesse. Welcome to Morals Part 3. Um, the third moral given in the Bible is very simple. A man and a woman married that get to have sex and make babies. Okay? So consider that for a second. Like God made Adam and Eve, man and woman. Those two became one flesh. They were bound together and married, uh, and 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 they had kids, and they lived together. Today's society doesn't believe that. They believe you don't have to get married. They believe that it's okay for a man and another man to be together, or a woman and another woman to be together in homosexual relationships. Okay? And my perspective on that is like this. From a natural perspective, homosexuality weakens countries. It weakens society. Why? Well, men having sex with men weakens another man's ability to control their poop. Okay? That means that man is not as capable of being a military soldier, a hard worker, not, has to, if they work in an office, they have to go to the bathroom a considerable amount more, to the point that they almost seems like some of them spend all day in the bathroom. Or they have to wear diapers or what have you, and that adds expense to life, and then comes the social yuck of it. Okay, there's a lot of people that aren't yucked out about it today. It used to be that was a huge, like, ugh, I don't want to be around that guy, and it, for a lot of Christians, that's the way it is. It's like, oh boy, and I put up with this, like, and so there's a lot of just dysfunction, added to society because of that. Now, those that are pro LGBTQ or whatever, or the young kids growing up that are taught, oh, well, this is okay, they'll get on here and hate me for what I'm saying. But as a person that's grown up and seen society change, those are the changes. That's the reality of the situation. Okay, I know what's happening with it. So I've got to say that's it causes, the extreme viewpoints on morality, because somebody that does that type of behavior has a different moral set than a Christian or a Jew, like a true Christian or a Jew. And now there'll be people that come saying, "Oh, well, you can be a Christian and be homosexual," and the truth is, no, you can't. Look in Romans chapter 1, read it. It says these people that are cursed by God. What are they cursed by God for? They're teaching something wrong about God, or they're blaspheming God. That's what Romans chapter 1 said. And also with the homosexuality is added all sort of malicious emotional behavior. Okay? So maybe not every single one of them has other bad personality traits, but as a rule, it's something to be watchful for. Okay? It's something to have to watch your back for. To watch for the conniving, scheming, malicious behavior. Because it's true, it's done. You can see that in the domestic abuse ratings if you look it up online. and that's kind of an issue. Now, the other thing is lesbians or homosexual girls, and you would be like, a lot of people would be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with lesbians or this and that. Okay. Lesbians don't really get along with straight white men, or men in general. Okay? For a girl to become a lesbian, generally speaking, there has to be a whole lot of hatred in her heart somewhere, or in her partner's heart. Okay? I'm not going to say every lesbian is hateful, but it's a more common trait than it is among straight women. Okay? And that's a known fact in society. Like, a lot of social Karens are homosexual girls. A lot of what you'd call, the big angry bull dykes or whatever, of the world are homosexual girls. That's what that was named after. Okay? There's no kind way to say, hey, you have a personality dysfunction that is paired with homosexuality. Like, it's a true thing. That happens. Yes, straight women can be bitchy, whatever, but it tends to be exacerbated with lesbian girls, and I think part of it is because of sexual fulfillment is not really that great for them. I'm not going to go into that any more than I've already stated. That's just my personal opinion. You can disagree with it if you want to, but that's, it's a known fact, at least among older men, that women that aren't getting any tend to be aggravated, and if their partner's not being, patient with them so that they can get happy, well, it usually ends up in a broken marriage. Okay, so this is a thing that's typical of women. Okay? And it's, if a woman's not getting her happy time, she's going to be upset. That's just all there is to it. There's more women in lesbian relationships, and if they're not getting their happy time, then I don't know what to say about it. Like, you come to work and you take out your anger at men on the world, and then you take out your other frustration out on everybody, and it makes the workforce like cringe every time certain people walk in a room, and it's not at all nice. It's not kind to be around. So think about that in terms of like okay, we've dealt with the homosexuality issue. We dealt with Romans chapter 1. We know, like, God cursed, sodomy is an abomination before the Lord. It's like that bad. Like, plainly spoken in ordinary Christian speech, if you're a homosexual, you're going to hell. You're like, that's truth. Okay? Does that mean that as Christians we hate everybody and spend all our time hating homosexuals? No, that's not the thing. It's like, okay, they're doing what they're doing mostly because they've turned away from God and they've chosen a different lifestyle that God hates. And with that comes, mental illnesses, emotional instability, mental instability, bodily harm because they're harming themselves, unfulfillment, and a great variety of bad behaviors that God adds unto the homosexuality as a curse. And that's a Christian curse. It's not, you won't find something like that in the Old Testament. It doesn't really say anything about it like that, but it is recorded in the New Testament. So consider that, And then you have fornication. And fornication, all it is a boy and a girl having sex without being married. And that's really common nowadays. Like, it's very, very common. It's not a good thing. And the biblical solution to that was, in the old days, well, the two would just get married, and that would be it. If you want to have sex, get married. And a lot of communities, I've been in religious communities that if you didn't get married in the church, you were considered like, what's wrong with you? Or if you went to the courthouse and got married, they kind of like, why didn't you just get married here in the church? And hey, when you're horny and you want to have sex, sometimes the smartest thing to do is go down and buy that courthouse marriage certificate so you don't sin. That's what I did with my wife. Maybe that was a mistake, because our relationship didn't work out long term. But at least I don't have fornication and adultery hanging over my head as a sin, right? So think about that, And then for those of you who have lasted this long, that are like, oh boy, this guy, he's really a religious guy, whatever, like, I don't care. Think about the fornication. What does that do for relationships? You have a person that has sex with multiple people. And there's been psychological studies that a woman that has been cheated on once doesn't trust a man as much. A woman that's been cheated on twice really doesn't trust a man as much. And a woman that's cheated on multiple people is herself not trustworthy and trusts almost no one. Okay, so what does that do to society if you don't trust anybody? Like, that's a big change. Like, men who cheat on other people can still trust, but they almost look like men that have been with multiple women don't create male-female bonds as well. They begin to objectivize women. Okay, that they make women out to be more of an object than a person. They're not treated. Women are not treated as good as they would like to be treated by a man that has been with more than one woman. And you can get on Google and Google it and look it up. I'm not just, speaking religious rhetoric thoughts. Like, these are scientific studies. You can get on Google Scholar. You can look this stuff up. You can find it. Okay, this has been scientifically studied. So consider that, and the biggest issue is, like, these sexual relationships and breakups, they create, every single one, like, I don't know, like, about y'all, but I can remember a lot, in high school, girls and boys going through bad breakups, and there'd be so much heartache and pain, and like, but imagine that, and then you add the sex in, and a lot of them in school at my age were having sex, and that psychological damage creates mental disorders. Okay, so the problem with fornication isn't just the sin, it's the mental disorders. Okay, a male and a female were created to be married together, and have sex afterwards. There's a reasoning for it. Okay, and it's not just a Judeo-Christian thing. This is not just a Judeo-Christian thing. Okay, when you look at the history of the world, every society on earth had a monogamous form of marriage at some point, or has the concept of marriage. Like, this is husband and wife. These two people have chosen to be just them together. That's it. And there's psychological reasons for it. I can say the American society has tried the other way now. I suspect that our society is going to be like, pretty soon it's going to be like, yeah, we're not doing too good, and maybe we don't want so many mental disorders, and maybe we'll turn and go back the other way, like maybe. And given time, I don't think we're going to have enough time before Jesus returns, but given enough time, I think this society will turn again, because our children's children or whatever decide they don't like living like this, right? It's much nicer to grow up in a very stable household with a mother and a father that don't break up. It's nice, because then you get to talk to your dad, and he's on good terms with your mom, and the relationship there is just nicer for the kids. And then the kids grow up, and they're not as they don't just go off as far from the family and the family beliefs as they do when there's not a wholesome marriage. So, like, I'll give you an example. I'm a very religious person. I'm a Unitarian millennialist. My wife is a Trinitarian with all, just normal Christianity. Okay? But my children, because me and my wife broke up, my daughter has in times past said that she wanted to be lesbian. And my son is like, I don't know, I don't want to say what religion I am because I don't want to offend mom or dad. And then my youngest is like, I don't care about religion. That was what they were like 6 months ago. Or 9 months ago, or whatever it was now that I saw them. And so when you think about that, like the damage that a broken home can cause, it's pretty bad. Where I look at my religious friends who don't have a messed up household, and their kids believe or are getting convinced of what they believe, and that everybody talks about what they think, and you get time to teach your children together, and they get mom's opinion, they get dad's opinion, and there's more input, and they see their grandparents more often, and it's quite nice. It's a nice way to live, and that goes for all households, not just the Christian and Jewish household. Every household will experience that type of thing, no matter if you're atheist or agnostic or pagan or Christian or Jewish or whatever you are. And that's a good benefit for that society, and it keeps social cohesiveness. And that's kind of important, because when you don't have good social bonds, then you get a lot of disturbance and insurrection in the government, because the social bonds are what keeps governments, together. So it's kind of like it's an interlinking cascade effect. So that's fornication is covered. Now, have we talked about the benefits of actual marriage? In a very natural sense, the woman gets provided for and helps to build her house, the items in her house. The man knows and has the surety that he gets to pass on his genetics, and he knows that he's not wasting his labor, effort, and time on a child that isn't his. Okay? And there's a lot of guys that these days that, like, they marry a gal that's got kids, and they love those kids and everything like that. And they might be a good guy or whatever, but there's always this this thing inside that's like, I wish this kid was really mine. And some guys might not have that. They might not. But I would say that, like, buried in their subconscious somewhere, it's there. Okay? So I think that that's a thing that really ought to be considered more, is it like the value of knowing who your children are, knowing who your father is, who your mother is, knowing your grandparents and great-grandparents or children and grandchildren, who they are, because a lot of folks that just sleep around, a girl might get pregnant and not even know who the dad is. In the black neighborhood that I grew up in, when I grew up, there was a number of girls, and there was huge drama in that neighborhood every time somebody got pregnant, because a lot of times they didn't know who the dad was, and the dad might be 2 or 3 or 4 different, or 5, 6 different guys. You have no idea, and that's what happens when you're a little hoe, Don't whore around, and you'll know who the father is. And with that comes, oh, well, instead of a father supporting the children, then you have to look for extended family, or you have to support the kid yourself, or you got to get the government to intervene. And it makes life cost more. Okay? It makes life cost more if you don't stay within the family, or you don't stay with the father. Okay? For the woman, it makes life cost a lot more. Like, it might not cost her more because the government is paying the bill, but it definitely, like, there's more child care cost, there's more food cost, because of people that have emotional disturbances eat more. So the kids are eating more, the wife is eating more, the father's eating more, because they're dealing with depression and anxiety and stuff like that, mental disturbances. So, and then you have the cost of 2 households, having 2 different homes. The father has a home and the wife has a home. So there's a huge costs. Like, so when you think about morals, think about the negative impact of not just having them being man and woman, being married. Like, do what God says, marry, then have kids and stay together. Okay? Even though I'm in a bad relationship, I'm still married to my wife and I haven't cheated on her. Why? Because I've looked at it and said, okay, even though this person is not somebody I can get along with, at the end of the day, my kids will say, my father and my mother still had the moral backbone not to cheat on each other. And their situation isn't good. Maybe they should have been separated and move on. But at least they have a little bit of integrity. It's not much, but it's a little bit. And that'll give them pride to be able to stand up as a human being and say, okay, bad things can happen, but you can still try to be a good person. And that example, I think, is valuable for children. Like, even if bad things happen, you can still be a good person. That's important. And so, like, I believe that marriage is an essential societal value. Okay? Because when you have the government having to pay the taxes for, or pay the bill for, I don't know, 30, now it's probably closer to, I don't know what percentage, a large percentage of homes that are broken, that the government has to intervene and force fathers to pay child support, and then they have to pay, government assisted housing support and food and stuff like that to these mothers that can't hold a steady job, and can't afford to do it. Or, maybe some of them can, whatever, but typically it makes it really hard and very expensive, because you're paying for two whole family. Basically, the amount to raise those children doubles when the parents split, doubles or triples, and it's like it's not good for society to have that. So coming back to marriage, like in a good marriage, the wife is supposed to be obedient to the husband. That's what the Bible says. She gets love, she gives respect, but that's contingent on listen to and obey your husband. And that is the whole, like, the male is the head of the household, unless there's something wrong with him, but even then you still need to listen if it's of religious nature and it makes sense, or if it's something that he just kind of wants, you need to, so, like, male is the head of the household, the woman is supposed to be obedient, and that's just how it is. Like, that's what biblical marriage is. And when you look at the history of the whole world, it's not just Christian nations that are like that, or Jewish or the Jewish that are like that, or the Islamic that are like that. But typically speaking, in the whole world, that's what marriage really is. Okay? Now, you got some backwards stuff in Africa. We're not talking about that. But when you get to the majority of the world, it's the man is the head of the house, the woman follows his orders. And it's a thing that all of creation just naturally that's what we go to. It's part of human psychology that this is what we need for our societies as human beings to function, is married houses with a man as the head of the house and the woman listening to the husband to get things done. And in return, the man listens to the concerns of the wife and tries to make her life better based on providing what she needs, or providing the discipline that the children need, or what have you, or providing extra teaching, or doing something to fix the situation, or what have you. So that's my thought on the second moral of the Bible. Get married, stay married. It's good for countries, because then the country doesn't have to provide extra tax money, and the taxes don't go up on everybody because people are screwing around. So think about that, consider it. I'm sure there's more value to that others could add to that. Leave comments in the comments section. If you like what I said, what I had to say, then give me the old thumbs up and subscribe, and whatever, if you dislike it, well, leave a comment. All right, have a good one.